G'day mates, Argsy here. Welcome along to my little slice of the Australian outback I like to call Nulla Creek. Well, it's not really what I like to call it, it's what Aussie Modding Co-op like to call it, because this is the soon to be released new map for Farming Simulator 25. Nulla Creek is a large 16x map coming on the 1st of November. So not too far away, about 10 days at the time of recording this video. It is, for all intent purposes, kind of carry on from the Aussie Nomads that they released in FS25, but further refined. It is a brand new map. It does have some pre-created farms on it. It is not just a start from scratch, but when you get and have a look at the PDA, you'll see that there are some areas where if you just want to go and build your own farm and have some big fields, there is that option. But if you just want to get in and start doing some farming with some pre-made fields, there's a huge assortment of sizes, there's a huge assortment of farmyards, there's a huge number of options to be able to do it. Now, one thing to say about this map, Aussie Modding Co-op build these maps for their own community to play on. It's designed for a multiplayer community, it's designed for them to have farms and play the way they want to. So it's done for them, but they are generous enough to release it to the public. So take it as you will. It is what they want to have as a map. It might not be what you want, it might not be for everyone, but it is here and it is going to be a very large map. In fact, having had a look around it, this feels like one of the biggest 16x maps I've ever experienced in Farming Simulator, whether at 19, 22 or 25, which is saying something. So we'll dive into the PDA in just a little bit. We'll take a look at the farmyards, the fields. We'll take a little bit of a look around the map. There'll be a lot of it that we won't bother looking at because it's all just a little bit like the Aussie outback and just goes on and on and on, and it's all the same. But we'll take a look around the towns. There's a couple of towns, and there is, like I said, a few different farmyards around to take a look at. So let's go and dive into the PDA. So here it is. This is the PDA for Nulla Creek. As you can see, and as I explained, it is very much a crossover between a start from scratch map with lots of just open farmland, unprepared fields, unprepared ground, trees everywhere, things like that, as well as quite a number of pre-built farms and pre-built fields, as you can see here from the map. So there is a good variety of that, depending on what you want to do, whether you want to start from scratch, build your own farm, or whether you want to get in and use one of the pre-built farmyards. Now, when I say pre-built, a lot of them might have a house, they might have a couple of sheds and a silo. They're not hugely detailed farmyards, but they are there and have sort of the basics for you to start off with, which I kind of like. It does give you the opportunity to be a bit creative and you're not sort of hamstrung with playing the map the way that the map maker had made. I know some people enjoy being able to remove every building out of a farmyard and build it up their own way, and work around the existing field. So you will have plenty of opportunity to do that on this map. Now there is about 9 of these farmyards I've just described where they have a shed, sort of scattered around these areas on around the fields, and sort of interspersed amongst those. As well as that, there's probably 3 or 4 areas where there is a clearing in amongst the fields, sort of down around this farmyard. Here's an example down here, and in here by these round fields there's an opportunity there where there's sort of a clearing, there's a gravel area where you can build some sheds and put your own equipment up or put your own farm in there. So there's a few options for that, but plenty scattered around. Now there is 200 purchasable farmlands on the map. There is number 200, 10 acres, $335,000. So just to give you a little bit of a sense of scale, I'm going to randomly click on some of these. 150 acres in there, 452,000. There's a section in here, almost 300 acres, 880. I haven't actually bothered looking at what's the biggest or anything like that, but again, just look at some of these fields around here. 120 acres over this side, 52 down the bottom here, 65 acres. So huge assortment of field sizes right down here, 8-9 acres for these. So lots of different options for how you want to play, how you want to start off. In the center here, this is a town area. There's lots of sell points. I haven't found any pre-placed productions on the map, so there is plenty of space, though it's a 16x map, so there's plenty of space to be able to put down your own things. But there is a number of different sell points through the middle. There's a cotton wholesaler. Take a look at that. A whole lot of different things. Grain silos. There's some buy points in here. If I can click on that or not, zoom in there. Purchase point for, I think that one is for, I can't click on it. I was able to before, but that might be for seeds. There's the fern and lime sale point. So Can't click on it. There we go, seed station. You can see the train running through the middle here. So we do have a train that goes sort of from down the bottom up the top. So you can see it runs out the edge here and runs out the edge here. And then there is some other areas. There's a hay export up that side. This side has the animal areas. There's a grain corp to sell things. There's a dairy up there. But there is this, areas you can sell things scattered all around the map. So it does mean if you're sort of playing down in the bottom right hand corner here, you do have a couple of options which are a bit more accessible than maybe driving all the way up into the top. You just have to decide if it is worth your effort. There's roads all around, everything is all linked in really, really well. So yeah, that is, I guess, a quick look at the PDA. There is, if we just go back here into crop types, we do have a couple of custom crop types, alfalfa and lentils, as you can see down the bottom there. And jumping through into the prices screen, you can see if we have a look, there we go, there's our lentils and our alfalfa at the top. So plenty of options for where to sell things. Of course, if you're just into some big grain cropping and things like that, you've got at least 2, 4, 6, 7 different options there for selling your product. So lots of different things you can, lots of different places you can take your product to, lots of different options there for that, which is nice. Now we did load the map here with a starter farm. If I zoom right in, you can see we are set up here on farmland 101, 102 and 103. 12 acres, 7.76 acres and 22 acres respectively. This does encompass a lot of the farm, so the actual field size will be considerably less. And we've got a little bit of equipment there to start off with, as well as some silos or hopper bins, which you can use as well. So we're going to take a quick look around here, and then I think what we're going to do, I'm just trying to figure out the best way to show the map off to you. We're going to take a look around the town here. This is kind of where there's a lot going on, so we'll go for a wander around that, and then I think we'll jump up into an aircraft of some description and just fly around the map and go and look at the different areas, because like I said, a lot of this area through here has some very nice terrain. There's some hills, there's some forestry, but it is just repetitive Australian outback, for want of a better description. And then we'll get down and just sort of have a look around some of these different farm areas and give you a bit of an idea of the map and the lay of the land. So we're starting off here in front of the house. I'll keep the mini map up in the bottom left corner to give you some reference points. Now this house does have an interior. If you're into some roleplay, a little bit of grass growing in there. I think a few little things still to tidy up in this version of the map before release. We walk around in here. I got some triggers there for lights, some little symbols, obviously FS25 symbols, but we can come in here, change what we look like, and then head on over to the bed, and got a sleep trigger in there as well. So if you want to come in and use the house, it's not something I tend to do, but you might want to. A bit of a barbecue area at the back, but it's nice to have a detailed interior there on the house. And like I said, this is the starter farm, and this is probably a pretty familiar setup across most of the farmyards. A lot of them look very similar. I've got a few bins like we do there. Obviously got an auger there for loading those. And then it just tends to be a pretty big open yard area with a couple of these, I think, are they Aussie span sheds? Seen these a lot on Hox's maps, on Aussie Modding Co-op's maps. Very Australian type shed. But here you go. This is the equipment you do start off if you choose to start in starting farmer or a new farmer mode. So we've got the case combine in there with the header, a bit of a trailer, Fiat tractor, a Challenger there as well. So there you go, Mass Cedar, wheeler drive, yeah, there it is. And the Diamond Harrow, actually this is probably the most Aussie piece of equipment from our experience in there. And then we've got the sprayer as well. So not a huge collection of equipment, but you do start off with that. But for most people, when you're a PC player, you can start off however you like, and you've got a lot more flexibility with it. So I imagine most people will choose their own adventure with that. Now these sheds, you have to come over here, you have to find the trigger for them. The doors are a little bit difficult to operate sometimes, just finding the trigger. In fact, I can't even find the trigger on those, but they slide in different directions, and finding the right place to open them can be a little bit hit and miss sometimes. That one might not work. I have managed to open them on one of the other farms, so whether that's an issue there with this or what's causing that, I'm not sure. They should open. So that is effectively this farm, the starter farm, and they're all very, very similar. So We're going to take a look around the town now, and then we're going to have a look around the rest of the map and see what some of the other farms all look like. So from the starter farm, you can see the house back over there on the right. It's not too far to head on down here into town. And like I said, we'll just take a quick little wander around here. Now there is some traffic running around on the road, so you will see that as we go. And we've got some John Deere signs in there. I think that'll be the dealership. We'll just suss that out in a second. And you'll just see there's a whole lot of familiar looking buildings with the BP gas station over there. Let's just go in and head on in here, and there you go. You can see we've got the trigger for that. So we've got an Emmett's dealership here, John Deere dealership. Let's pop in here. Hit the trigger. We might as well buy correctly branded piece of equipment. We don't get that in. Here we go. Go a little bit old school, but let's go and lease that and just have a look to see where these all pop up when we lease something. Around the corner. You can see it on the map, so it is right around the back. Now this is a big dealership, so plenty of space for you to be able to buy equipment, particularly if you are going to be using some big stuff. So there you go, there's our tractor popping up out the back here. So that is the main shop, bit of a workshop area around the corner here. The trigger's on the ground, you can come over there, and you've got the workshop as well. A little bit of storage space down the side, so nice big dealership area. Now we're going to carry on heading on down the road. I'm not sure if running is going to be the best way to do this. It might take a little bit of time, but we will keep on soldiering on. We've got the BP over there on the right hand side. That is a gas station. You can see from the little blue dot on the mini-map that is something you can use for fuel. I've got a sell point in here on the left. There's lots of silos, lots of sell points scattered around this area. It is the main sort of town. Not bad on the prices. It'd be nice if it was a little bit cheaper. But yeah, just carry on along the road here. Now there's some houses. You can see the little yellow dots on the mini-map, which are for the houses over the other side. That has some of the NPC characters set up in those. So you do want to interact with those for whatever reason. Super Cheap Auto there on the right. And then in here on the left, this sign. Dowsey. Not familiar with that one. The warehouse on the right here, so if you do want to buy product, you can use the warehouse. There's a whole lot of different things all through here. Over the back, you've got the Elders, Tyre Centre, Bronson Tyre Centre there, but they're just sell points scattered all through here. Probably easier to look on the map and have a look at them, but you can give you the feeling of what the town's like, so it does have a little bit of a presence, and does give you some areas you can explore, Home Depot even. So as I was just saying, we've come down this basic red section here, which is the road. We had a logistics sale point over the side there. There's an Aldi supermarket. The cotton wholesalers. Actually, we'll go and have a look at the cotton gin because I quite like how that's been done. Elders, you saw that in the back there. That was the wool. The seed station as well as in there. Fert and lime station. And then we've just got some different buy points. Sell points, sorry, Cargills. Wood sell point, Bale Exports, Grain Corp, and a Grain West silo. So a few different options for selling around here. Alright, so I've put in the bullet. We're going to go and fly through the rest of this, but you can see here, this is the gin sell point, or the cotton sell point at least. Set up as a cotton gin. It's back at the Home Depot. Then coming over here, just typically Australian, right? Large grain stacks, large open grain storage with the conveyors and augers and everything like that for loading and unloading. So those sell points, as well as having sort of more of a traditional elevator type point, bale export in there underneath, and then the wood sell point there as well. So like I said, a pretty well set up little town, gives you all the options you need, and it's kind of very central on the map, which is kind of nice. I think it works out really, really well for getting to and from without feeling like you're driving too far, because as I said before, I get the feeling that this map feels bigger than it actually is, just because of the size of the farms and the distance you have to travel to get from point A to point B. So, just jumping back into the PDA, we've had a look at the town area. What we're going to do, I'm going to sort of head down, we're just going to fly over these, take a look at some of these different areas. We'll spot the round fields on the way past, a couple of the farmyards we've got sort of scattered in around there. We'll go over this outbacky sort of open area, go down and check this section down here in the bottom, work our way across the bottom edge of the map, check out all these different fields before we head back up the top, and we'll end up just having a look up here at these couple of sell points, which includes the animal dealer. So that's the way we're going to head if you want to follow along. So like I said, there we are, that is the starter farm down there below us. So we'll follow the river down this way. Here's another of the farmyards just going over the train tracks there. So again, another house through, so grain silos plus a shed. And then if we just head on over here, so these are those round fields I showed you on the map. And this is a little bit of a clearing down here, which you could use to build a farmyard if you wanted to. And moving across, like I said, there is some areas for forestry. There's some nice and interesting terrain. And there's just these areas where you could build your own farm if you wanted to. Lots of space in here on the right. And areas like that. Road networks that run the whole way through, so a lot of sort of dirt, gravelly roads. In here on the left, starting to see a few of the larger farms, larger fields. Again, another farmyard there with a couple of sheds and some silos. We're just going to scoot our way over top of these. Nice and regular shaped fields, but there is also some irregular shaped fields. A lot of fields you could plough together. You know, just thinking this one here, you could get rid of this line through the middle here, even the line on the left, and actually plough that together, or buy the land adjoining and start expanding into it, whichever way you want to do that. We'll just keep on heading on down here, so we're getting close to the bottom of the map, but again, we've travelled a little bit of distance already, heading over farmland 86. We've got another farmyard down here, arrangement of silos and a shed. And we're now going to head basically across the bottom edge of the map. So this is kind of terrain that's a little bit more remiss of the Aussie Nomads for FS25. Trees, areas you can plough and create your own fields, create your own farms. Done a little bit differently because the trees are quite clumped together rather than just spread across. So you don't actually have to clear too much to create some fields if that's what you wanted to do. Just heading down. Just down here, so this is one of those sort of convenient sell points which is just located close to some of the farms, so you don't have to travel too far if you don't want to. If you want to get the best price, you might have to. And then again, more forestry, some forestry tracks, some roads that go up and over top of this hill. And there's quite an expansive amount of forestry in there if that's something you wanted to do. So we've gone across the bottom of the map. We've got some other areas in here. Again, more farmland, more fields. Following the train tracks down. This is another area in here by the silos. Again, no sheds on those areas, on those clearings, but certainly something you could build your own farm up in there if you wanted to. We'll just do a little bit of a spin around because again, the map does expand down here into the bottom. There's these really distinct areas, there's these zones, and I can just imagine how fantastic this would be if you had 5-6 different farmers on this working on a multiplayer. And there is a little, and I don't know whether this is a Giants editor thing or something is a bit of a remnant, but there is sort of this little black line when you get close to the edge of the map. In some areas it feels like there's a weird shadow. You don't notice it down at ground level. It's definitely, we'll just go down there. It's definitely something you notice a whole lot more when you're flying around the map like we are at the moment, but if we just get down here, it's really not that noticeable. As it was when you're up at higher level, even here if you're sitting up in a tractor. But look at the terrain on that field. Need a little bit of horsepower, work up the edge of that. Another clearing down here to build your own farm. And we're now going to motor our way back up towards the top of the map. So we've kind of covered the right hand side down the bottom. And like I said, there's not a huge amount to pause and sort of ponder and look at. Again, 2 sheds and some silos there for the farmyard, as well as a house and sort of these fields. 1, 2, 3, 4, quite easy to plough together. Even add that one in 5, and you've got yourself quite a big field, big farmland. Likewise on the other side, 1, 2, 3, 4 fields. So you can merge all of those 7 or 8 fields into a couple of decent sized ones. Not that they're small at the moment, but you'd certainly make them bigger. And as you fly across and take a look at some of these other farmlands, you can see the opportunity to do that through these as well. But there are some cool little spots. You get down and have a look at the effort that's gone into creating these kind of roads and tracks, and the landscaping in amongst these feels really cool, feels really outbacky. We'll carry on heading up here, and like I said, we are going to get up towards the top of the map. Now, there's a little bit of a larger farm in here. There's a few silos, 3 sheds, 2 different banks of silos, as well as a few more over here. So Lots of opportunity in here to create quite a large farm, particularly with the fields that are around it. Some space in there to build another shed and do some your own things. So another good example of the kind of variety of farms without being hugely different and without being hugely controlling. And then carrying on up this way, now we are getting up towards the top left-hand corner of the map. More farms, more fields, more expanses, more Australia. A couple of sheds down there as well. And then right up in the top left-hand corner, like I said, there was a sell point in here. So we've got the silo in here on the right. It's through there. We've got the gas station. So you can come in and buy some gas. And then we've got the animal dealer in here. So if you we're going to go and put down some pastures, have some sheep, some cattle, whatever you might do in here. This is where you come up to buy it from. If you wanted to do it with a road-trained cattle hauler or something like that, that is where you come to do that. And we've got the dairy over here as well, so your sell point for your milk if you were going to become a Aussie dairy farmer. And just a few more houses, just to give it a little bit of character in this area. So we will just head on back across the top edge of the map here and just take a quick look. It feels like we're going from field to field pretty quickly, but there is these huge expanses of land, and when we look back at the PDA, you will realise that they were pretty spread out when you look at it. Another farm just down there to the right, and amongst all these fields, when we're playing those ones together, that'd be a big long run through there. Now over there on the right, that is the town. The fields just there on the horizon, a couple of ploughed ones. That is the starter farm we were looking at before. And then right across the top here, big expanse of land that you can create your own farm through. When you think about it in the scale of comparing it to something like a standard 1x map, there's probably 2 or 3 1x maps just up in this top corner. So a lot of space. Of course, you are governed by how you access by the position of the river, so you sort of got to get around and navigate that. A dam there and a bit of water ponding back up in here. Got a campsite down there as well. Maybe forestry is your thing and you want to come in and sort of do a little bit of wilderness exploring. Actually, you know what would be fantastic is when the Highlands fishing releases and you've got areas like this dam and the river, to be able to get one of the recreational boats out on that and do some fishing. A bit of an explore on that, that'd be pretty fun. And we're just basically just floating across the top of the map, heading back down in towards the town, follow the river down, that'll take us back down towards the main town area. And just basically, you've either got predefined farms and pre-built fields or expansive Australian outback and something you can try and tame yourself, which I think is pretty cool. It's a nice mix, and the fact it's such a big map gives the opportunity for that to be done. Even things like these sort of farm tracks that run through. Very nicely done. And here we are, back pretty much where we started not too long ago. Going across this farm, and we'll head up back up into the starter farm. Town in there on the left. And that could quite possibly be one of the fastest overlooks I've taken of a 16x map. Like I said, there's not a huge amount of detail and features to go and spend a lot of time looking at. It is more about giving you the vibe, giving you the feel of the map, talking about the sell points, how it's set up, and what different options you might have for farms, because there is a lot of sheds and silos scattered around, giving you opportunities. I'm thinking of a Aussie, New Zealand based multiplayer server. Might be something we set up for the community to have a bit of a play on. I've got a few ideas floating around in my head how that could be done. So keen to see if anyone's interested in doing that. But like I said at the start, this is due out on the 1st of November from Aussie Modding Co-op. It is going to be released through King Mods. I have my view on King Mods. That's my view. I'm not going to talk about that here, but certainly that is what Aussie Modding Co-op is choosing to use to release this, and it's what they've released other content and mods and maps on previously, so that's what works for them. So we will go through and support that, so just do make sure you only download it from the link that they provide. But there we go. Huge thank you to the team Aussie Modding Co-op for sharing the map with me and giving me the opportunity to put this video together and to take a look here at Nulla Creek. I hope you found it interesting. Let me know if it's a map you might find yourself playing on. I know a lot of people love getting on these big maps and really testing out course play and auto drive and challenging themselves to run a big operation. It can be a lot of fun. So I'll be keen to hear if that's something you're going to explore and try out. But there we go. That's it from me. Hope you've enjoyed this map tour. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.